Hello, my name is Hst Imager. I'm the creator of Hst Installer, and I've been working on a new tool called Hst Imager, and I want to show this today. This is my Windows setup, so we'll try out the Windows version. First the GUI version, and then later on we'll get to some more advanced topics with the console. But let's first start out by going to the website of it. So it's on GitHub, so you'll have to go to github.com/Hst and then /Hst Imager, and when you're here then you have to click on releases, and within releases you can see there's a lot of different assets for the latest version, and the one we will use right now is the GUI one for Windows, which is not there. Oh, I just have to click show all, but there's 3 different versions. I want to use the setup version, so it runs a classic setup and installs it as an application. You can also download portable, so it's just one single executable that will start the program right away. Yeah, but let's choose the setup exe. So it's downloading, and I haven't bought any certificates, code signing certificates, so it runs without. So you're probably going to have to get some settings changed in order to get it. I have to say keep anyway, at least in my Edge browser, and I think I've also changed some settings regarding this. I can't recall where it is. Is it here or is it downloads? No, I can't recall the exact settings, but at least you have to click you want to keep the file anyway, and then you have the file downloaded, and we'll open the installer, have it installed. Yes, we want to give it access to make changes so we can install it. It's on the way, doesn't take that long. It's a fairly new laptop I'm running on right now, so it's it should have juice enough for whatever I put onto it. So let's find it either by going to desktop, it's there, and in my start menu it should be there as well. It actually starts it automatically when I ran the setup. I can see I have enabled the debug mode, which is not what we want right now, so I'll just disable this and close, and then start it again. We don't want the debug for this demonstration, but it's of course useful if troubleshooting, finding possible reasons for errors and so on. So, but anyway, now it started up the GUI version, so we have a few different options. You can either use these quick links here on the start page, or you have it also actually the same shortcuts in this sidebar. I can even expand it so you can see the names of them as well. So right now I'll just start off by, we want to have something to test with, so let's create a simple dummy image file. So I'll just use the blank to create a blank image file. So let's create something in, we'll probably my documents. Let's make a new folder. Just right click, new folder, Hst Imager, and in this, oh, that's the wrong folder. This one, yes. So I want to call it blank, and then I just want it as a simple regular image file, so I'll just name it .img, save, and then I want something reasonably sized, not too big, so I just say 1 gigabyte. And this option is selected by default, so it'll actually subtract, I think it's 5% of this calculated size, so it should fit SSD, CF cards and so on of this particular size given. So let's just start by creating this out. Okay, so it's created. And one other option to create images, this goes for reading images and creating blank ones. There's also a possibility to use virtual disk images. So let's try to create a virtual disk image. So it's just like before, where I type the name blank dot and then VHD, which will indicate to Hst Imager that I want to use what is called virtual disk image. So we'll click save again. I want 1 gigabyte as well. I want to create it. Okay. So what's the big difference between these two? Let's have a look in my file explorer. Let's go to my documents, and in my documents I have my Hst Imager. And as you can see, I started out by creating this IMG file, which takes up 1 gigabyte of disk space as expected. And the VHD file, a virtual disk drive, that actually only takes up 4 kilobytes. So what is this? The virtual disk drive is actually a dynamically expanding image. So it means that it will only take up the space where sectors in the disk is actually used for anything. So I have created a disk image of 1 gigabyte with zeros throughout the entire drive, which means that it's in a sense not used at all. So that's why the virtual disk image doesn't occupy any space. So when I would start to write some files and so on, format it, it'll start to use a few sectors. So even if I just format this, it'll still only occupy maybe some 100 or 500 kilobytes or even a few megabytes. It will still not take up any not much the disk space. And it goes for the same. Let's just try what if we create something much bigger. So let's just say 128 gigabyte VHD. Let's just rename this and create. So how much space does this occupy? It doesn't occupy 120 gigabytes, at least not as it's a virtual disk drive. But if I would have created an IMG, then it would have taken up 128 gigabytes. So if we look at this, it's slightly bigger, but it's not scary at all. It's just 229 kilobytes. That's pretty nice. We can even display some information about them. So if you want to look at what does this image actually contain, we can click on the info, and here we select our image. So let's select the blank IMG we created in the beginning. Well, there's not much on it. Let's just resize this to take the entire screen. So it's completely unallocated. I can see if I click on the details, this is the raw byte size and just rounded to megabytes. So yeah, it's blank. And if we take the virtual disk drive, see it's completely the same size, more or less. It's just increased it a bit so it fits sector sizing. But again, it takes up much less disk space when working with disk images for emulators or VirtualBox or something like that. Amiga emulators and as well, that's what I primarily used it for. Actually, the reason why I built this tool was I noticed this virtual disk image file format, and both WinUAE and FSUAE actually support those. So it would be pretty interesting to use, but unfortunately there's not that many tools that supports creating these or managing them or converting them for that matter. So that's actually the main reason why I started building this tool. If I want to, I can convert between things. So let's just say that we have this blank VHD file, the 4 kilobyte one. Let's just delete the raw IMG one, and let's just demonstrate the convert. So it's here, so I can convert. I can say, okay, I want to select this blank VHD file. This is selected as a source and as a destination image. I will just type again blank.img, save. So we'll convert the VHD to an IMG, and you can do this vice versa. You can convert an IMG to a VHD for that matter. So let's just try this out. That's it. Pretty fast because it's blank, so it didn't contain anything at all except it knew that no sectors has been used, so that was pretty fast. So that's all good. Well, now since we have a blank image of 1 gigabyte, and I actually have a, well, let's just see if it says here. I have a cruiser fit. Let's just eject it so I can show it. So I have this small USB cruiser fit, but it could be, I mean, it could be your classic CF card reader, micro SD, SSD, something attached to USB. Then when attached, we go into, let's try to write this blank image just for testing. So now the instance I click into either write or read, it wants admin access, so it can access the raw disk drive, because the application is started up in a regular user context, and regular user context cannot make any raw disk access. So I need to give it permission, and then it pops up here. That's the only drive available. It filters out any of your regular hard disks that are non-removable. So it's primarily just the USB ones attached. So let's select our blank image, the VHD one, as source, and then my USB as destination. I want to write the entire file. If I for some reason want to write only a part of it, I can actually say, oh, just write the first 12 megabyte, for instance, but that's not the case. So I'll just want to write the entire file. It even displays here information about the source file, so the blank VHD, which doesn't contain anything. So I actually get an overview of what I'm going to write. So just start the writing, click OK. Yeah, this is not so large. I've deliberately chosen 1 gigabyte because I know this is a size that won't take that long to write, and it's also a USB stick that it doesn't have the best read and write speeds, but it's good enough for testing and moving some files and so on. And in this particular matter for demonstration, it's fine enough just with 1 gigabyte. So we'll just let it write. It updates with 1 second interval. Percentage complete. You have the speed. How fast is it writing? How much has it written already, and what is the total size it needs to write? Time elapsed and remaining time calculated. So let's just wait until this completes, and then we can try to read it again. So we'll write it to disk and then we'll read it again, and maybe also do a comparison. So it's also possible to compare. You can compare two image files. For instance, if you converted your IMG to VHD, or vice versa, the VHD to IMG, then you can compare them to see are they byte-wise completely similar. And you can also do this with physical drives, so you can compare your IMG file with your physical drive after it's been written. There are some things you have to be aware of in that matter, because if this disk contains FAT32 partitions, Windows or Mac systems have the need to write some updates to some of the root parts of this file system, even if you just plugged it in. So you might end up seeing that it's not the same if you compare them, just to be aware. So it's successfully written. It probably doesn't make much sense to show much in my file explorer. I could probably just say that, yeah, it's not formatted. Of course, it's completely blank, so no, we won't do that. But yeah, we could do that later on. But for now, let's just leave it as it is. Let's go to read. So we'll read from the USB stick, and just give it some name for testing. So we'll just call it read.vhd, because it won't take up much disk space. And it's actually a 16 gigabyte disk, but I'm not sure that I want to read the entire 16 gigabyte. Now it doesn't contain any partition tables, so I can't select other than pre-filling it with the entire size of the disk. But I can choose to say, well, I only want to read the first, yeah, let's just say in bytes, something like the first 1.2 gigabytes. Let's see, we have the zeros correct. I think I need a zero more, so megabyte, yeah, that's kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte. So 1.2, let's just read that and click start. Yes. So it's reading. Obviously it's a lot faster reading than writing, so this won't take long. Let's just have a look at it afterwards and see the actual file, how much disk space is going to take. It shouldn't take more than 4 kilobytes, but yeah, let's see. We can always compare and see the results. So just have to wait a little further. Update slowly, but it's getting there. Almost done. Okay, good. So let's see in my Explorer. Yeah, it's actually 5 kilobytes, but I also deliberately chose to read 1.2 and not just 1. But anyway, so let's try to compare it. So we select the original image, which was the blank one, VHD, that I wrote in the beginning, and then it was the read VHD I just read, and then this will say compare largest comparable size, which is the smallest of the two files I've selected, source and destination. So it will compare my 1 gigabyte to my 1.2 gigabyte, which actually means that it will just compare the first 1 gigabyte. So the entire of this and 1 gigabyte of this 1.2 gigabyte file. So let's just try that and see what happens. It's completely identical, the first 1 gigabyte, so that's good. All good. Yeah, so this is actually the GUI part I wanted to cover. Next up is the console part, and this is where it gets more interesting, at least for some. It gives a lot of extra advanced functionality. Let's just close the GUI version, go again to the website, and let's select the console version. For this I want console Windows x64. Clear this, download. Yeah, it just takes a while. Yes. So let's go to my downloads. Let's select, I want to, yeah, just open it, and we'll just take all the contents. So I just double clicked it and I click Control A, Control C to copy, go into my documents, and in this Hst Imager folder, Control V to paste. So it'll just extract all the files here. Shouldn't take that long either. There's of course the console application. That's this file. That's the console application of Hst Imager, and there's actually some scripts and some examples. We'll come to that later on. So as I have it ready now, let's just open a terminal. I'm on Windows 11, by the way, so yeah, I use PowerShell. So let's just size this up a bit. I know I have my face down in the corner, so I won't resize this to fit the entire screen, but this is good enough. So let's go into my documents, and it's located in my work OneDrive, and then it's in Danish, so that's dokumenter, but it should probably be a document if it's English. But anyway, so we'll go into Hst Imager, and in here, so let's make it there, we'll see that I have Hst Imager. So let's just try to run it. Hst Imager, yes, so ready to use. So what can we actually do with the Hst Imager? Let's just try out to create some partitions, because it can actually make partitions, and we can actually format them. And since I started developing this, I also looked a lot into how to read and write the partition table of the Amiga. So it actually supports rigid disk blocks. So let's try this out. We'll use the blank image file. So we'll have to type Hst Imager. We'll have to type RDB for RDB related commands, and just run this. We can see that there's initialize, there's some file system related, some partition related stuff. There's even backup and restore the rigid disk block. So in the beginning we want to initialize rigid disk block, and we want to do this for the blank.hd. That's it. So now it initialized the rigid disk block, created it just with some default parameters. It's good enough for now, and it actually says the amount of disk space allocated for the rigid disk block here. I can also show some information about it, so we can say RDB info, and this will then show the product name, the vendor name, the region, size, cylinders, heads, sectors, all those details. And I haven't added any file systems yet. I haven't added any partitions yet, so it's pretty blank. And as you can see here, it actually displays an overview, kind of like the one you see in Hst Imager, where I can see there's some reserved space which is used by RDB itself, and there's some unallocated space because I haven't added any partitions yet. So next step, let's try to add a file system. So as I recall, Hst Imager actually comes with PFS3AIO, and this is version 3.1, I think. So let's add that. So Hst Imager RDB FS for file system. So let's just enter this and see the available commands. I can add, I can import, and so on. For now I just want to add, so let's say RDB FS add and PFS3. I just want to list all the options, so let's just start up by this. I want to see the usage, so add, and then the path to my image of physical drive, so that's blank.vhd, and the file system name, that was pfs3aio, and the DOS type for this, I want to use PDS and not PFS. So we add that. That's it. It automatically reads out the version string from PFS3, or it's actually the the version string that is inside this this file, and it actually passes out this and adds this automatically. And my DOS type is added as well. And the reason why I chose PDS3 is actually if I want to write this to a CF file or SD card and use it in one of my Amigas, it's actually prepared for whatever system that might want to use a direct SCSI mode. And I haven't encountered many systems that particularly want this, but I have encountered a friend's was a CDTV with a SCSI module. And the only way I could get PFS3 working was actually to add this DOS type as PDS3, because it tells it to use direct SCSI mode for all file system access. So I primarily stick to PDS3. So now we have file system added. Let's just check up on it. So RDB info blank. You can see it now lists the file system, and it's roughly this 57 kilobyte. So now we want a partition added as well. So let's just write RDB part, and RDB part I can do add. Let's just show the uses for that. So we want to add something to our blank RDB, a blank VHD, and we want to give this partition a name. Want to use classic DH1, and we want the DOS type. I've added the file system of PDS3, so I should do the same here. So it points to that file system, and I want to give it a size. So this should be, I don't know, just for testing, let's just say this is 200 megabytes. So that's it. Oh, it actually didn't make it bootable. Well, let's change that. I wanted to be able to boot on this partition. I could just say boot able like this, but I forgot that, so we'll need to update it. So let's just look at this. Usage for RDB part update, and here I have a lot of options, and the one I'm interested in is bootable. So RDB part update blank.vhd, and I want to say that it's partition 1 should be bootable. Oh, that's wrong. Oh yeah, so I should say true. Yes, and let's just confirm it by going to RDB info. So it says now I have one partition, PDS3. It's probably easy to see it up here. It says DH0, it's 200 megabytes, starts at this cylinder, ended at this cylinder, block size, which is pretty default, buffers default as well, and it's bootable. Yeah, it's not easy to see because I'm not using, maybe this will help a bit, not much. Anyway, now it's bootable. So let's add a second partition. So we'll go, I just click on the arrow up. I can cycle through previous commands. So I just go back to this one. I want to add DH1, and I actually want this to use the remaining part of the disk, so I can type star. So this will add a second partition and sized of 704 megabytes. Let's just confirm it by showing the info. So you can see here it goes DH0 in Solemnity 2 to 408, and then DH1 goes from 409 and then up to the remaining part of the disk. So that's good. I have my two partitions. Now let's just, for some testing, go back to the GUI. I just want to show the info through the GUI so I can just see some more info, since the started out the image was completely blank. So now it should contain a lot more. Let's even see here. So my blank VHD file, let's just confirm it by showing properties. Yeah, it's the VHD, blank VHD. It's now 2 megabytes. So it's actually clear that it contains something on the disk now. So let's select this. You can see now it shows that I have the reserved part as shown here. My two partitions, the first one of 200 megabytes and the remaining 704 megabytes. So this is now not completely ready to use, but it is at least partitioned. I want to format it, and Hst Imager can do this as well. So we'll have to go into RDB FS just to show this. No, sorry, that's actually part of RDB part. Part has a format command, and we want to format my blank VHD, and we want to format partition number 1, and we want to give it the name work bins, pretty classic. That's it, formatted as PFS3. So we want to format partition 2 as well. We want to name that work. That's it. So now it's actually ready to use. So let's just confirm that it works by opening WinUAE. I have that installed. So actually I haven't installed any Kickstart files or ADFs. I really want those just to boot up a plain Amiga with a Workbench disk, just to confirm the disk. So I actually want to extract the contents of my, I have downloaded, let's just see here. Let's first go to Explorer. In my, what is it, documents or downloads? Let's go to my downloads. I have downloaded my two ISO files. I have an ISO file of the latest Amiga Forever 10 Plus. I think that's the latest one. And then I have my ISO file of my Amiga OS 3.2. I want to use that later on. Right now, let's just copy them both into my documents. Hst Imager, place them next to my blank VHD. And if we go here, just make it dir.star.iso. I should have my two ISO files. Yes. So I want to extract the files from these two ISO files. I know you can just double click on the ISO files in Windows. I think it's 10 and 11 that supports this, and then it auto-mounts the ISO file. But I want to show off that Hst Imager actually also supports looking into ISO files and extracting files. So Hst Imager has a file system part, and this file system part has a dir. And I can say file system dir to display directory content of my Amiga Forever 10 Plus ISO. So if I do this, I can actually see the contents of this ISO file. So I know that my Kickstart ROMs and ADF files are located in Amiga files, so I can dir further into this. So I'll just have to type. I can't type complete now by pressing tab, so I'll have to type it, and it contains a space, so I need to put this in quotes. And then this directory contains a shared and a titles folder. I want to into the shared folder, and the shared folder contains ROM. The ROM contains all the Kickstart ROMs. So let's just check it out. It looks correct, so that's good. Now I want to extract, so I just press home to go to the beginning of this line. I replace dir with X. Could also write extract, but X is just a shortcut. So I extract this ROM folder, and this is my source that I've given here, the source path, and now I want a destination path. So let's just say I want to extract to a directory called Amiga Forever. Yeah, maybe we'll just keep the entire name 10 plus. Doesn't matter. Just Amiga Forever, that's good enough. And then backslash, I want to put my ROMs from the ISO in a ROMs folder. So these files are extracted. Let's do the same thing. So I just press up. I change this to ADF. Go back here. Change this to ADF. It has all my ADF files extracted. We can just confirm this by my file explorer. So you see now it actually created this Amiga Forever directory. It has created the ROM directory that I extracted, and it also created the ADF directory. So now I have the files. I just need to test it out. So we'll go back to WinUAE and let's just make a quick start. Let's say an Amiga 1200. Yeah, that's fine. I want, yeah, this is good enough. Let's just make some quick changes here. So I want fast as possible. I want, oh, I have to select a 30 to get JIT mode. I would just want some speed and FPU. That's fine. Chipset, don't want to change anything there. We'll go to ROM. Here I have to select my ROM file, so we'll just have to locate it in documents, my Hst Imager, my Amiga Forever, ROM, and then I want my Amiga 1200. That's with the 3.1 Kickstart ROM. That's this file. So select that, and for RAM, it has 2 MB chip. That's fine enough. 2 MB or 4 MB set too fast. Yeah, that's fine enough. I could also increase set 3 fast, but this is fine enough. Let's just increase it to 8. Yeah, so let's check some floppy drives. We want workbench. So again, go to Documents, Imager, Amiga Forever, ADF, and then we want to select workbench of Amiga OS 3.1. And last but not least, we need the image. So I want to add my hard file. Let's select it. It's the not D drive, sorry. It's in my documents, Imager. Oh, not Amiga Forever, but here, that's my blank VHD. So let's open that. You can see that WinUAE actually reads out parts of the disk. So it actually sees that there is a rigid disk block on it, so that's good. We click OK. Now we're ready to run. I just, for the sake of it, let's just save it. So we'll just save this and call it Amiga OS 3.1 A1200 blank, and save, and then start. So it's booting up the floppy disk with the workbench, and we should be able to instantly see the 2 disks within workbench. So let's have a look when it boots up. Oh yeah, let's press F12 and then let's just speed up the floppy disk. I just save this again. It's a bit faster. Yes. So all good. I can see my workbench partition. You can even see that it, I don't know, my rounding in megabytes and Amigo's roundings, it's not the same, but it's close enough. So let's just look at the work partition as well. 652, yeah, that's it kind of matches. So that's all good. We'll open the workbench and we want to open a shell. Let's just make this fit the entire screen. Let's just type info to give some information about the file systems attached. So here you can see my DH0, which is the roughly 200 megabytes, my DS1 roughly the 700 megabytes, and they are ready for use now. So I can put whatever on them I want. For now, let's just close this. So we'll just press F12, quit. So now we've created an image, we have partitioned it, we've formatted it, we've actually done it completely without using any kind of emulators, where I normally would do, but Hst Imager can do all of this. Now Hst Imager does also allow you to create scripts. So if we just look at some of those that are included, for instance, there's a create 16 gigabyte VHD with RDB and PFS3. So if you just open this is a completely simple text file, and within these scripts you can actually type the same commands. You just see that it's completely the same. I just omitted the Hst Imager part, but here I've written all the commands. This could be a CMD file as well, a so-called bed script or command line script, but you could run it from anything else, since it's a command line. It supports whatever kind of scripting preferences you have. But just to show this particular thing, script, let's just try it out. So we'll say Hst Imager, type script, and then I can type scripts or just SC and then tab to tab complete. It's called something with create. Let's continue and say I want the PFS3. Hit enter. That's it. It created a 16 gigabyte image file. Let's just steer it. The bottom part here is just the overview, where it just shows the partitions and all the contents of the disk. So let's just steer the 16 gigabyte VHD. It's roughly 8.4 megabytes, so that's okay. And we can just close the GUI. We can try this out in WinUAE as well. So we'll just load the configuration from before, and the only part I want to change is actually the hard file. We remove it and then we add this 16 gigabyte one. Click OK. I know that now I'll see some weird numbers because I have a partition that is, what was it? I have one of 13 gigabytes. So Workbench 3.1 won't be able to see the full size of this, because it only supports the first 4 gigabytes by default, but there's of course patches you can run to fix this for the file system, or sorry, not the file system, but for the SCSI device. So let's start this out, see what it says. Boots up Workbench for Amiga OS 3.1. So I see more or less the same. It has a DH1, which is, what is it? It's a gig, I think, and then the remaining has the 13 gigabytes. But Amiga OS 3.1 won't be able to fully show this. Let's just again type the info command. It will probably show more or less the same. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's more or less. Actually, the DH0 is actually 500 megabytes, and the large work disk it says it's 800 megabytes. Yeah, I think I just opened them up differently, so it won't be able to see it all. But let's just try out with Amiga OS 3.2. So I just want to extract some files from this as well. So we'll type Hst Imager fs dir Amiga, and then tap until I see Amiga OS 3.2 cd.iso. So let's see, it contains two folders I'm interested in. It contains the ADF and it contains the ROM. So I want to extract, and I want to extract the ADF. I want to extract this to Amiga OS 3.2 /ADF. Extracts all those files, and then I want the ROM files as well. That's it. So all the ROM files are extracted. My ADF files are extracted for Amiga OS 3.2. So let's boot up WinUE again. I want to load this configuration. I want to modify it. So let's go into the disk drives. I want to remove this and add the 16 gigabyte one. Okay, and we need to correct the floppy disks. So we boot up Amiga OS 3.2. So select Hst Imager, Amiga OS 3.2, ADF, and then I need, let's see, I need both my workbench, and since some of the libraries that previously were in the Kickstart ROM, some of those are on located as files now, so I actually need to insert the install disk as well. So I need the workbench and the install, so I have those two added. Then we need to change the Kickstart ROM, so we will change this to Documents, Imager, Amiga OS 3.2 ROM, and we need the kick a 1200.rom. That's it. Let's save this, and we'll just change it to 3.2 1200 16 gigabytes. Oh, that's it. Then let's start it out. Should be booting up. Something is going on. See the disks in the lower screen. Oh, wait a second. Does it boot the floppy, or what does it boot? Actually, I don't want it to boot on my disk. I want it to boot on my floppy. So let's just remove bootable for now, just for testing, and let's just reset. It looked like it actually booted on the hard drive, which doesn't contain anything. So let's just retry and say it should not boot on the hard disk and let the floppy drives boot instead. Okay, that looks much better. So let's try to open again. Workbench, still it shows the same as Amiga OS 3.1 did, but the interesting part is now that I open the work, it actually says that it's somewhat close to 13 gigabytes. And if we open my Workbench 3.2 floppy disk here, system, shell, and again expand this and run the info, you'll also see that it actually displays that it's 12, 13 gigabytes. So this is much better. So Amiga OS 3.2 supports all this directly now. So that's good. Next up, I have some interesting scripts as well. So let's just close down WinUAE. So I just had a break, and let's continue with the scripts. So the scripts are located, let's open File Explorer, go to Hst Imager and examples. Here I have created a set of PowerShell scripts and Python scripts, which actually does the same. Of course, the PowerShell scripts are for Windows OS, and the Python version is for macOS and Linux. I will demonstrate the PowerShell in this video, and I'll do another video for macOS covering the GUI usage on macOS as well. So for now, let's prepare for these examples to work. I need to have the scripts and Hst Imager in the same folder. So I'll just go to Hst Imager directory. I will copy, I'll just click, I hold Control down, and then I select Hst Imager, and I need PFS 3 AIO. Click Control C, and then go in. Oh, wait a second, I also marked examples, that's not good. So let's just try again. First, I'll just left click on Hst Imager, hold Control, left click on PFS 3 AIO, hit Control C. And then let's go into examples and then Control V to paste. So now I have Hst Imager and PFS3, but I need an extra tool I've also created and released recently. We need to go to Hst Imager. So let's just go back to the root web page of the project on GitHub. So this is Hst Imager. It's a console utility and also a library for a lot of different stuff. But the interesting thing is we need releases. In releases I have made a pre-release, and from the latest pre-release we will get an asset for console Windows x64. So we'll download that. And it's ready in a while. Yes, it's ready now. So let's just go to my downloads, and I have my Hst Imager console. I just need this single Hst Imager, so hit Control C and go into my documents, Hst Imager, examples, paste it here. So now it's ready to run the scripts, these example ones. And the first one we'll try is a script that actually installs Amiga OS 3.1 from the ADF files. And to start it, I will run this Windows command script, which is the easiest way from Windows File Explorer. So I'll just double click it. You may have to say something, there may be a pop-up that says this is something that you download from the net and Windows is printing from run. Then you need to click on a more info and then run anyway. I think I've already done this once or twice. That's why I don't see the pop-up now. But the first thing the script asks for is Amiga OS 3.1 install disk ADF. I extracted that earlier, so I'll go to my documents, Hst Imager, go into Amiga Forever, which contains Amiga OS 3.1, into the ADF, and within this ADF folder I have Amiga OS 3.1.0 install. So that's the install disk. I'll just double click that to select it, and this script will automatically pick up the other files it needs. And now it's actually showing a pop-up which for some reason is hidden in the background, but it's this dialog down here. it says, do you want to create a new image file? I'll just click yes. The script creates a 16 gigabyte image file and creates two partitions, one of 500 megabytes and the other one with the remaining disk space available. So we'll just use that. And I want to use PFS3 file system as well. You can use fast file system or DOS7. DOS type in this script by clicking no. Then you'll have to locate your Amiga OS 3.4 or 3.0 install disk, because that's where the fast file system handler is located. So right now I just want to use PFS3, so I'll click yes. And then it creates the disk image, creates partitions, adds the file system, formats the partitions. Now it extracts all the files from the Amiga OS 3.1 native file. It copies out all icons, all info files. It updates the location, of some of the icons. Then it copies them all back, and now it's done. So let's just try it out. So we'll open WinUAE, and I previously created this blank, and let's just load that in. We'll eject the floppy, and we will change the disk to this new one I just created. It's already here, but let's just browse to it again. So it's in documents, it's in my Hst Imager, it's in this examples directory where the script will run. And now I can see it's created this Amiga OS 3.1 VHD file, which takes up 16 megabytes, even though it's a 16 gigabyte disk image. So let's just open it up, and now it's added, and maybe we'll just save it as the, let's just call it by script and save. We'll start it, and there you go, it's up and running. The workbench disk looks as it normally would when you install it manually by ADF files. And just to confirm that it is Amiga OS 3.1 and Kickstart 3.1. So that's pretty easy and pretty fast. So let's just close WinUAE. Now let's move on to the next one. This is install Amiga OS 3.2. So we'll again run this Windows command script. Again, you may be prompted with a dialog where you have to click more info, run anyway. I've already done this. So we have to locate Amiga OS 3.2 install disk, and I also extracted this earlier. So I'll go to my documents, I'll go to Hst Imager, I'll go to Amiga OS 3.2 and ADF, and then select the install 3.2. So let's select that. And then a dialog pops up again in the background. We just have to click this up. Do you want to create a new image file? Yes, I would like to create an image file. Do I want to use PFS3? Yes, I'd like to do that. Again, creates the image, partitions, file system, copies Amiga OS 3.2 ADF file contents, and last it takes all icon files, copies them out, modifies the position, puts them back again, and then it's done. So now it modifies icon files using the Hst Amiga console app, and they're all copied back, so it's done. So let's just confirm it works. So we'll open WinUAE again, and let's just reuse the one we created. I think that's, was it this, the W8 loads. Let's load that and modify it. No ADF files, that's good. And the floppies. Then we'll remove the old hard file, add the new one. Just for the sake of it, let's navigate to documents, Hst Imager, examples, and there is a new Amiga OS 3.2 VHD file. So we'll select that. Okay, and maybe let's just save it, just for good old sake. Let's call this by script. Save it, and we'll start. So this takes a while longer to load. Boot. And it complains about MAU libs not installed because I've selected an 030 processor. So right for now it's just fine. I'll just continue. And Amiga OS 3.2 is running. And it looks as I would expect it to look. So that's good. We'll confirm it by viewing about release 3.2 and kickstart 3.2. So that's good. It works. Let's stop this. Quit it. So now I also want to have something installed, and for that I've created a script called extract WHD loads, and this actually extracts LHA files and LZX files, or zip files for that matter, from a given directory. It scans all files it can find and it extracts it to a given place in an image file or a disk for that matter. But for this, it will it's scripted to work for image files. So now we'll need some games to try out. I've already downloaded some games from whdload.com. I know there's other ways of achieving these LSD files with WHD loads, but I've downloaded a few, and the ones downloaded I moved those into Hst Imager and a folder called WHD load. Here I have an LZX for Califar, and I have Genesistes, LHA, and Pinball Fantasies, and Super Frog. So I want to install those on the WHD loads with the Amiga OS 3.1 and 3.2. So let's go back to Hst Imager examples. We'll run extract WHD loads Windows command script. So double click this. Again, you may have to click more information, run anyway. I've already done that. So now the script asks for, it wants me to select a directory with WHD loads to extract. And this is located in my Henrik Stinger folder, in my documents, in Hst Imager, in WHD loads. Click OK. Now a pop-up popped up in the background again. Do you want to create a new image file? This is to create a blank one where it just extracted to one of the partitions. I don't want that. I want to reuse these I've already created. So let's start out by Amiga OS 3.1. So select that. Do we want to install minimal WHD load? This covers installing the actual WHD load, skick, kickstarts, and iconlib. So WHD load is for running WHD load games. Skick and kickstarts are used for emulating Amiga 500. So the games actually created for Amiga 500 can run on modern Amigas like 1200, 4000, so on. And iconlib is for showing icons in workbench for these games. So we'll click yes. Now I have to select Amiga 500 Kickstart, which is required to run a lot of those games and demos for that matter. So we'll go to Documents, Hst Imager, Amiga Forever, which I extracted earlier. This is the ROM directory, and in the ROM directory there's Amiga OS 130.rom. So this is Amiga 500 Kickstart 13 ROM. So double click that. So now it installs all the Kickstart ROMs. It downloads SKick. It downloads the latest WHD load. It downloads IconLib from eminet.hdload.de, extracts them, installs them, and now I'm prompted where do I want these WHD loads extracted to. I can enter a different path if I wanted to. Maybe you want to use this with an image of your own where you have, let's say, DH1, games, WHD loads, I don't know, something. But in this case, I just want the default, which is leaving it blank, meaning it will extract it to DH1 WHD loads. So I'll just click OK. So it extracts the 4 games. It's already done. So let's try it out. We'll start v1.0. I was so clever that I created this configuration and saved it. So the one Amiga OS 3.1 by script, I'll just double click this. And now we'll open work, which is DH1. And it appears blank, but it's because there's no icon file for the folders. So I'll have to go up here, right click, and it says show all files. Ta-da! That's my WHD loads directory, which it extracted the games to. I want this to show the next time I reboot. So I'll just say window snapshot window, which means that it will save the settings I've changed for this particular window. Let's just try it out. So we'll press F12, click reset, and open work again, and it shows directly all the files. So we'll open WHD load. Let's have a look at some of the games. We'll go into G, which contains Genesys. But first, let's just change some of the color settings. We'll open Workbench, Prefs, Screen Mode, and we'll increase this to 256 colors. Click Save. And let's try to open work again. WHD loads, G, and it contains great Genesys. And you see the lovely icon, which I can double click, and it starts the WHD load game. Yep. So let's just quit it. If I can't remember the shortcut. Anyway, let's just quit it the hard way. So reset. It boots relatively fast. Let's try another one. Let's go to WHD loads. Let's try S, which contains Super Frog. Let's open that. It contains both the game and the intro. We'll just start the game. Click enter just to continue. Let's see if it works well. Yep. So let's just quit it again. Let's move on and try it. We'll rerun it again. But I want to do this for the other image, for Amiga OS 3.2, just to demo it. So we'll select the same folder with the WHD loads I've downloaded in my documents and Hst Imager, my WHD loads. Okay, we don't want to create new images because I want to select this one, Amiga OS 3.2 that we just created. And then a pop-up in the background, so just click here. Do we want to install the minimal WHD load? Yes. It's already downloaded, so it doesn't have to do that again. It'll just reuse the same files. Okay, I want to use the default WHD load on DH1. Okay. It's done. Let's try it out. So we'll open v1.0 again. And I saved the configuration. Amiga OS 3.2 by script. And it takes a while to boot. Alright, so it's up and running. I want to do the same thing here. I want to open Workbench, Prefs, let's open screen mode, increase the colors to 256, save it, and let's open the work. Doesn't contain anything as it would appear, but let's just say show all files. There it is. We want to snapshot the window so it's there next time. Open the WH loads. See, it's the same thing. Let's try P instead, which contains Pinball Fantasies. Open that. Let's try Stones and Bones, but that's 4. Yep. Let's play this. Okay. Let's reboot. Just to try another one. So let's open work, WH loads, C, Califar files, open that, and press enter. It seems to work as well, that's good. I don't want to enter more of it, I just want to quit and continue to the next script, so that's quit WinUAE. So the last script I created is called WHD load to HDF, which actually just creates a disk image that is large enough to contain a given WHD load. So it actually creates and makes a WHD load run directly. So let's try it out. Double click it. And I have to select a WHD load that I want to create, a disk image that can run. So I'll go to Documents, Hst Imager, my WHD loads, and select. Let's take Great Game Assistance. Do I want to use Amiga OS 3.1? Yes, let's just use that for this example. We want to use PFS3 file system? Yes. Otherwise we will use DOS3. So it creates a disk image with one partition large enough to contain Amiga OS 3.1, just the bare minimum. That's because it only needs the Workbench ADF and the install HDF. And then it creates a startup sequence that starts WHD load for the given game, which is Great Game Assistance, so it starts that directly. So let's try it out. So let's open WinUAE, and since this is Amiga OS 3.1, let's reuse the one called by script we saved earlier. And we go to disk image, remove that one, and add the one that is now created, Great Game Assistance, which takes up 8 MB disk space. So let's open that. Let's try it out. So it starts it directly. Yep. So let's try another one. Just quit. Double click WH load to HDF again. And this time let's take Superfrog. Do we want to use Amiga OS 3.1? No. Just for the sake of it, let's try something else. We want to use PFS3 again, yes. Since I didn't want to use Amiga OS 3.1, now I have to select something, or not something, I will have to select a Workbench HDF for Amiga OS 3.1 or later. So now I want to try it with my Amiga OS 3.2. So let's go to Documents, Hst Imager, Amiga OS 3.2, which I extracted earlier. Go into ADF, and it wants my Workbench HDF, so let's look it down here. Workbench 3.2 HDF. Select that. I have to select the install HDF as well. Go to my documents, Hst Imager, AmigaOS 3.2, ADF, and my install is located right here, install 3.2 HDF, and double click it. So it extracts the bare minimum, AmigaOS 3.2, kickstart, SuperFrog, modifies the startup sequence, and makes it ready to run. So let's open WinUAE again. Okay. Let's reuse the one from earlier, the AmigaOS 3.2 by script. Load that. We'll go to disk drives, remove this, add the one just created, SuperFrog image file, 10 megabyte. So let's just double click it. Okay, and click start. There, but fortunately it takes a little longer to boot with AmigaOS 3.2, but yeah. So, since this is a WHD load game that has more than one slave file to start, it actually makes this little dialog with all the possible slaves to select. So in this case there was SuperFrog and there was the SuperFrog intro. So it lets you pick what you want to start. So I just want to start the game. So let's click SuperFrog and it starts. So that's it for the examples. There's some other more advanced use cases. Let's try something out. Let's try to create a new file. Let's create a text file. Something, let's call it hello. Oh, hello to you. And let's open it. Let's type something. Hello from Windows by Hst Imager. Yeah. Let's just save it. That's it. So we have a simple file. Let's copy this into my image file. So I have a command prompt here. Let's go into, I already changed it to actually the same directory with Hst Imager. I just need to go into examples directory, and in here we should have the hello file. Let's just dir, yes, I have it right there. So we'll type Hst Imager fs copy, and I want to copy hello to you, the text. I want to copy this to AmigaOS 3.1 VHD. I want to copy this into, now the tricky part comes. I want to copy this into RDB partition table, and in RDB partition table I want to copy this to DH1. So that's the root of the work partition. That's it. Just to showcase how this file system work, we can say fs dir, and if I do this fs dir directly with just the VHD image file, let's just try this out. We'll see, it will actually list the partition tables available. So right now there's only RDB, which is what Amiga uses, and this acts like a directory. So if I want to enter this partition table, I just add it here. You can't tab complete because this is something that exists in the image file, so I'll just have to type it myself. Backslash RDB. You can see it now, it lists my partitions. I want to go further into DH0. I can see all the files here on my workbench disk. Now let's try something more crazy. Let's try to copy some files. So we'll copy some files from. Let's just copy all the files. So F is copy. The source is my AmigaOS 3.1, VHD, RDB, HD1. I want to copy this into a subfolder. Let's just call it, let's call this DH1. So that's the local directory it will create. And I want to do it recursively. So it should take all the files in the root of my DH1 disk and all subdirectories and files. So I just add -R. So now it copies all the files from within the disk image out to a subdirectory, local subdirectory on my Windows machine called DH0. So let's just have a look. This was in the examples. So I have a DH0 folder now. You can see I have all the files and even all the directories. So I can go in and look into a particular file. I could even modify it. I could copy it back. So I could, let's say I want to copy it back. So we'll say Hst Imager. Oh, Imager fs copy. We'll take the local DH0 directory. Let's copy it to AmigaOS 3.2 and we'll put it in RDB partition table. We'll put it in DH1. In DH1 we'll put it in a folder called test from AmigaOS 3.1. So that's the directory we'll put it into. So let's try it out. It actually takes recursive by default. So anyway, I've copied the DH1 to a local directory. I've copied it to the other AmigaOS 3.2 on its DH1. I can even copy from one image file to another. Let's just try it out. So we'll copy from DH1, VHD, RDB partition table. We'll take DH1 content again. We'll copy this to AmigaOS 3.2. Notice I can tap complete the file, but from here and further within the image I can't, so I have to type that myself. So copy DH1 from AmigaOS 3.1 to AmigaOS 3.2 RDB, and we want this to go to DH1, and in there we'll just type direct copy of DH1 AOS 3.1. And recursive, I just want to be on the safe side, but the copy does this by default, but I want to be safe, so I just edit, that's R, okay. And something is wrong. Why? Wait a second. There's 3 arguments because I selected up, so I actually included DH1, so there's too many arguments, that's why. So it should copy VHD of AmigaOS 3.1 to 2. So there was just too many arguments. Let's try again. That's it. It copied directly from one image file directly into the other. Let's try to open WinUAE and look at the contents of the 2 image files. So let's start up again. 3.1 by script. And let's open the work. See, I copied that hello to you text. What's the easiest way to do this? I double clicked it and I can enter a command just to open it. I think I can say ed and then enter. Yeah. Now it has some extra spaces. That's because it's from Windows. Windows has a carry return, a new line, and then this creates some extra jazz and Amiga. So yeah, but as you can see, the text is there, so that's cool. We'll close ed again. Did I copy other two MIUI 3.1? I don't think so, because it's already showing all files. I think the rest was copied to the Amiga OS 3.2. So let's start that up. So I'll just hit F12 configuration and then double click 3.2 by script. And let's look at the work directory for it. So it should have, what was it? In work there should be a DH1 directory now. There should be this direct, what was it? Direct copy from AOS 1 something. Let's just have a look. Oh yeah, what was it? Yeah, I think I call it test from Amiga OS 3.1. See, it contains all the stuff I copied there. Direct copy of DH1, or was it actually DH0? I think I just wrote DH1. Anyway, it did copy it directly from one image to another. And the even more crazy part is that this actually works directly with physical drives. So let's just try something else out. We will we'll have to start PowerShell or DOS prompt. Let's just take a command prompt. I need to start a command prompt, so I'll just open Windows menu. I'll just type cmd, which will then find my command prompt. I'll right click it, select run as administrator, click yes, and now I have a command prompt running as administrator, because that's the only way I can get direct disk access. So we'll need to go into the directory with Hst Imager. So we'll just mark this, hit Control C, go over here, type cd, add a double quote, Control V, double quote again, because it contains a space, so that's why I have to do this. Enter, and now I have my Hst Imager, and I'll type list. This lists all the physical drives Hst Imager is available to see. So now I want to, since I think this was the blank one from the early example and we wrote something else on it, I'll just start it from scratch. So let's initialize it for Amiga. We'll type Hst Imager rdb init disk 1. So it has initialized it for RDB, for Amiga. Let's add the file system. So RDB fs add, let's see if I can remember it all. So disk 1, that's where I want to put it. I want to add pfs3 AIO, and I want to use pds3 DOS type. Yes, it worked. I had all the arguments correct, so it's good. Let's add a partition. So RDB part add, that's again disk 1 where I want to add it. I want to call it DH0. I want to create it with 500 megabyte in size. Oops, an argument is missing. RDB part add path, yes. Name DOS type. Oh, right DOS type. So PDS3, and then no, it's the other way around. It's first the name of the partition and then the DOS type. So that's PDS3 because I added the file system as PDS3, so it has to go together. Enter. That's it. So first partition added. I want a second one, and it's called DH1. I want to use the remaining disk space, so I add a star. That's odd. That it only added a 3.1 gigabyte partition. Why is this? Let's just make some info. Oh, I need an argument for the disk. /disk1. Wait a second. Something already existed on the disk, so let's just delete that. RDB part delete from disk 1. I want to delete partition 2. I want to delete partition 1. Let's look at the info again. Now it doesn't have any partitions. It says that I have 14.6 unallocated disk space. It looks better. So again, I'll just use my arrow keys up until I get my first partition of 500 megabyte. Add that again. Add the second one with the remaining disk space. Where was it? Here. DH1 star. That's weird. It did the same thing again. Either that, I may have found a bug because it says 2.1 here, but if I make the info, let's do that again, it actually says it's the right size. There might be a bug. I need to look into that, but it's fortunately it's only a bug displaying in here that displays a wrong size here when showing it. It's not affecting it when it actually adds it, so that's good. But now I have a physical disk that I've initialized from scratch. It could be a disk you have attached to USB, SD card, CF card, SSD, something else just added via USB. So now I want to copy something from my local onto the physical drive. So to have something that I know would boot up directly, let's just copy it from Amiga OS 3.2. So if we say Hst Imager fs copy, I want Amiga OS 3.2. I want from RDB DH0. I want the entire DH0 copied. I want to copy this to disk 1, to RDB, to DH0, and recursively. So it copies all the files from within the virtual disk image onto the physical drive directly. I can do it vice versa. So I can say I want to copy from disk 1, RDB, DH0, and I want to copy this to, let's just call it physical disk DH0. So it copies it from the physical drive to a local directory called physical disk DH0 recursively. So now it copies it all back again onto my local disk. And let's try out the disk to boot it in WinUAE, but I think there's a small detail when I added the partition. So RDB info disk 1, I actually think I didn't make it bootable. Nope, it says faults in the bootable column, so I need to make it bootable. So we'll have to say run Hst Imager rdb part update on disk 1 for partition 1, and we want bootable true. So now it should have updated my first partition to be bootable. Yes. So let's try it out. So we'll start with WinUAE, and since what was it? This was this Amiga OS 3.2 I copied? I already forgotten. Let's just go up and see what it was. I have to go further up. I think it was 3.2. Yes, it was 3.2. So we'll load the... Oh, wait a second. Since I have to do raw disk access, I have to start WinUAE as well as administrator. So we'll open the Windows menu, type WinUAE, right click, run as administrator. Yes. And we want to load the Amiga OS 3.2 by script, load it, and we want to remove this, and we want to add hard drive. And we'll select it so we can see this is my local disk. That's not what we want. We want this. It has RDB. It's 14.6. It's my SanDisk Cruiser, so it fits the one I have attached in my USB. So I'll select that. It spots there's an RDB on the disk, so that's good. I'll leave it as is, edit, and just to verify there's no floppies in, let's click start. So now it runs directly off the SanDisk Cruiser USB stick, which I just copied all the files from the virtual disk image onto, and it works. Even though it says that this is uninitialized. Come to think of it, I actually think I didn't format it. Let's just redo that step. So we'll quit. I think I actually forgot to format. So again, let's just tap up a few bits. So RDB part format. I want to format disk 1. Partition 1, I want to name this work. So now it's at least formatted. I want to do the same with partition 2. Oh, wait a second. Partition 1 should be called workbench. So we'll redo it. It's named workbench, and I want my partition 2 to be named work. Yes. Takes a little longer because there's more sectors. It does quick formatting, by the way. It's not low level where it writes through all the sectors of the given partition. It's quick formatting always. So it's formatted now. Let's redo the copying. Doesn't take long. So we'll just tab up a few times, arrow up until we meet the copy. Where was it? This copied from 3.2 DH1 to disk DH1 recursively. Yes, redo that. And meanwhile, we'll just prep running WinUAE as administrator. Load the configuration by script. And remove this disk. We want to add physical disk, so that the USB disk attached. Add it and start. I expect it to look much better now, since it will be formatted. Yes, much better. The work looks as it should. Workbench disk looks as it should. So it's all good. So that's actually it. I don't have anything else to demo right now. Feel free to look into the scripts. I'll do another video for macOS, and I think I'll do an additional video for Raspberry Pi. I have been very fond of making this work cross-platform, as you may have noticed, both for Hst Imager and for Hst Imager. We should just go back a few times. Releases. You will notice that if I show all assets, there's console versions for ARM 64, Linux, and there's macOS, x64, ARM 64, Windows ARM 64, Windows x64. There's even the app image GUI for Linux. For macOS there's a DMG. Windows you have zip, portable, and setup. So it's as broad as I can make it, and the same goes for Hst Imager. So it should cover more or less all platforms, and the good thing about it is it works exactly the same regardless of being run on macOS, Linux, so on. The only big difference between Windows, macOS, and Linux is, of course, instead of backslash you use / for the paths. But yeah, more on that later in some more videos. But if for some reason you should encounter an issue, an error, or you may have a request, please go into the issues and create a new issue. I may create a template that will help you fill it out, but I need to know information about version of Hst Imager used. I need to use some details about the ADF files, or basically a description that makes it possible for me to reproduce the error, if it's an error. If it's requests, it's different. Try to describe feature requests you would like to see in the future, and I'll see if I can make it possible. I have a few interesting ideas myself. I want to create an HST VB installer version 2.0, and some of the concepts that arise with the development of this Hst Imager and all the file system copying and partitioning and all of that, it opens up a lot of interesting things that could be extremely fun to create in version 2.0. I have a lot of ideas, and I also have some ideas about features, additional features I want to create. Right now, as I showed, the file system copying from VSD file onto the physical drive to local directories, all of that can only copy files so far. It can't delete anything, it can't rename, it can't move. I would like to add something, some extra commands that makes this possible. I also thought about maybe have something called FS Open, so I can actually maybe some console, but streaming or piping, so I could open a file within a VHD, make it standard output, so you could pipe it to something else that could modify something, could pipe it back again, so it would be possible to manipulate individual files without having to first copy it out, modifying it, copying it back. Yeah, there's a lot of ideas. Maybe you have some ideas as well. At least I hope you enjoyed watching this video. A bit long, but there's also a lot of stuff it can do. But I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, feel free to write some feature requests, and yeah, contact me if needed. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.